2012 was an extraordinary year, but I guess they all are when you look back on events and the impact that they made. Now, I have no idea what the top 10 stories were, or the top discoveries, the top films, top books for 2012, and I'm not about to compile a list now. However, a few noteworthy things leap to mind, which leave me somewhat amazed. In just the religion angle alone, in 2012, we learned from a reliable source written on ancient papyrus that Jesus was possibly married. That's pretty big news. Also pretty big was that the Pope tweeted his Christmas message, which signaled a whole new era and led me to consider limiting my own wordy sermons to a mere 140 characters. I mean, it'd be great. We'd all be out of here in 10 minutes, headed for the slopes, which may be precisely what the future demands. The discovery of the Higgs boson, or so-called God particle, enlightened us to why particles have mass, and in turn, why we exist. So it was an interesting year for religion all around, considering that the latest polls show that 1/5 of all Americans even refuse to identify with any particular faith. Well, maybe this bodes well for Unitarian Universalism, where people with non-traditional views of God feel the need to gather weekly around a coffee urn, and this could help grow new vitality in our denomination. A great story of the past year, perhaps the craziest of all, was when Felix Baumgartner, the Australian daredevil, jumped from a balloon 24 miles up, right above the desert of New Mexico. Did that last October. It revealed to me the thin line separating faith from insanity. But it became the most viewed live event ever on YouTube. And so I wonder what Felix was planning for an encore in 2013. Language also always gets tweaked every year. In 2012, people talked about fracking as easily and naturally as if discussing a dinner recipe. Fracking rolls effortlessly off the tongue. And we also learned to grimace and point fingers of shame whenever 1% was mentioned. And suddenly 47% has new meaning. And we never conceived of a fiscal cliff until 2012. And then, of course, we were introduced to a new lingual concept called a binder of women. What will we be saying a year from now? In the past, whenever I stood before the dawn of a new year, trying to peek ahead into what new things might be wrought, I was transfixed on new discoveries in technology, medicine, sciences, space. What planet might we visit? How many new indispensable gadgets can we put on our smartphones? Would there be a breakthrough in cancer research? What new tricks could robots learn to make our lives more comfortable? But standing on the threshold of 2013, my mind did not race towards imagining new discoveries, things that would change our lives, brighten our lives, extend our lives. I focused instead on human change, that a new and better life rested less with scientific discoveries and more with the need for human beings to be able to transform themselves. I hearken back to the reading this morning where Nikki Giovanni bravely asserted that we are better than we think. We are alive to imagination. We are open to possibility. We will invent the future. Put another way, as we sink further and further into the muck of greed, fear, and hatred, our future, if it is to offer anything bright on the horizon, our future depends on following the better angels of our nature. That means confronting the devilish nature of our narcissism, consumerism, entitlement, and the idea of American exceptionalism. I defer to Joyce Carol Oates, who insisted quite correctly, I think, that our unexamined belief in American exceptionalism has allowed us to imagine ourselves above anything so constrictive as international law. American exceptionalism makes our imperialism altruistic, and our plundering of the earth's resources a healthy exercise in capitalism. And so I look out into the new year with a lump in my throat, wondering not about the rover on Mars or how the debut of Shirley MacLaine will affect Downton Abbey. I dig deep to find the kind of faith described by Nikki Giovanni, and I wonder if there's still time for those better angels to come into play and somehow set our course to a better goal. Abraham Lincoln was inaugurated long before anyone knew of climate change and fiscal cliffs, but the nation was as divided then as it is now. Jefferson Davis was inaugurated as President of the Confederacy just 2 weeks before Lincoln assumed office. Lincoln's life was in danger. Our nation was coming unglued. Hatred seemed intractable, compromise far from any consideration. And in Lincoln's first inaugural address to the nation, March 1861, after ticking off the unbearable conditions of the day and the threats to democracy they posed, he concluded that a future was possible only when we are touched by the better angels of our nature. Those were the words Lincoln used. These desperate times. Angels, where are you? We need to be touched by the better angels of our nature. Despite the needless suffering we cause, we cannot forget that our nature also carries an almost angelic side. In other words, we human beings carry quite a mixed bag of traits. We are better than we think, says Giovanni, but she also adds, and not quite what we want to be. There's enough evidence, I think, that we can muster the strength to face our own demons that threaten to sever the ties of the human community. It will take the power of angels to get us on the right path once they help us realize our own self-centeredness comes at a great peril.